And with us to talk about this and a host of other issues and to take your calls is Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. Bob, I want to get into flu in the next segment. First off, though, 23.7 trillion. Every 2 or 3 months we get new numbers. 10 months in, 23.7 trillion given to offshore banks, and it's all coming to a head as members of Congress and others continue to ask the private Fed chairman, the crook in chief, Bernanke, where is the money? And he says, I'm not going to tell you nothing. This is really coming to a head. I don't see Obama and his people getting away with this without staging some terror attacks.
Well, I think what's been going on is this for many, many years. And I identified it about 15 years ago. And when Treasury had trouble raising money, miraculously the buying would come out of either London or through the other tax havens, as they're called, like the Cayman Islands. And I believe, and I cannot prove this, that they, the Fed, have maintained secrets accounts over there, and they do buying through there, and then it shows up like they were hedge funds. And they may even be doing a private hedge fund to do it as a cover. And they also would transfer funds to London and have it done there because the Middle East, particularly the Arab oil interests, for years have bought lots of treasuries. That was part of the deal that they made years ago.
So they're doing plunge protection team stuff all over the world. They admit in the last 6 months, $500 billion alone that they then fractional reserve leverage. But according to you and others, they're not even following fractional now. They're leveraging it with even more paper made-up crap. To now Max Kaiser and other economists are saying a quantum level larger or to infinity, and they expect us to pay off the infinity of debt they've made.
That's correct. And they think that everything that belongs to us doesn't. It belongs to them. And I think Americans in particular, and maybe eventually people of the world, are going to see that they're going to just arbitrarily take people's wealth away from them. And this is where this whole thing is headed. And the secrecy, sure, Congress is mad about it. You know why? Because they can't hide their money like people from Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan Chase and the Fed and all the banks.
Everything's going to be fed into Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and the Bank of England with SWAT teams in the military standing by to extract it. Bob, I want to get into this after we cover the flu, but I want to make sure we revisit this in great detail and go over this kleptocracy, this worldwide looting system that is the New World Order. TheInternationalForecaster.com is his website. It's there on screen for you as we're here live at PrisonPlanet.tv. But I want to finish up with the flu and get your take on that as I recap the latest developments there. This is shaping up really bad, and get your expert analysis on that on the other side. And then we'll open the phones up as well after we cover the economy and the $23.7 trillion stolen. And if they get away with that, why not even more? Sky's the limit. The good old folks at New Silver Solution. And the website is supernaturalsilver.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. This is something that kills bacteria, viruses, you name it, well documented. They've got it down to a super small, nano-sized particle. Supernaturalsilver.com. Check them out at Infowars.com. Bob Chapman, formerly with military intelligence. Then he was one of the most successful gold and silver brokers privately, and helped get G. Edward Griffin going with some of his material. Worked, of course, with Gary Allen with that seminal book, I don't know, 4 or 5 million in print of None Dare Call a Conspiracy. Then at one time he had the biggest financial newsletter out there, the International Forecaster. Then he went into retirement. He's come back out of retirement to fight the globalists one more time. And it's always great to have him pop in each and every Friday with us. Your calls are coming up at the bottom of the hour. Josh, Jasper, John, and many others. The toll-free number today to talk about any issue you wish is 1-800-259-9231. All right, let me just recap this and get into the latest developments and get Bob's take on it. And then I want to move on into the banking and the $23.7 trillion that's been stolen and the latest numbers that came out earlier this week. But just recapping to make it very simple. This flu is much ado about nothing. We've had less than 20 deaths in the U.S., a couple hundred worldwide. Regular flu kills 37,000 a year on average, according to the Centers for Disease Control here in the United States. Less than 500,000 worldwide every year. Sounds like a lot, but 500,000 out of 6.5 billion isn't that many. Last number I saw for some of the tropical fevers and diseases are tens of millions a year. So the issue here is, what is all the hype? Why did one baby die who was already on a ventilator and premature in Houston, and did they shut down a bunch of schools? Why? That's why I went on air at the time and I said, I've got state officials, here's the document saying we're really at level 5, about to go to level 6, when the news said we were at level 4. People laughed at me. They didn't believe the document with the names of the doctors and the state officials on it. You could call the number and confirm it. 2 months later, it came out, real document, we were at level 6. Like I told you. Now, I said either this is a huge hoax, or they're lying about the severity of it, or they know it's designer and is going to mutate. Within days, we had epidemiologists, virologists on. They said it's not 2 parts human, 1 part pig, 1 part bird, without it being engineered. Like a breed of dog or a breed of cow, you have a lineage. You don't just, from a wolf, get a French bulldog. Or from a wolf, you don't just get a Chihuahua. That's breeding. There was no breeding line for this virus. It just came out of nowhere, whole cloth. And then top scientists, months later, were in the BBC and AP going, oh, yeah, I know this virus. We worked on it a few years ago in a laboratory for the UN at the World Health Organization. This is manufactured from the 1918 Spanish flu mixed with new flus. Exactly what we said. We had epidemiologists and virologists on that said it's very similar in its spread and attacking the lungs to the 1918 that the Pentagon had dug up 11 years ago from a whaler area where it's frozen permafrost. And they dug up an obese Inuit woman and some other people and got live virus out of their lungs. They used the Human Genome Project to then remanufacture it and splice it. So that's what these new vaccine lines are, where it doesn't take 6 months, it takes 2 weeks, because they're actually manufacturing in whole. Why then release something that doesn't kill a bunch of people but scares everybody? Because it scared regular virologists and epidemiologists, because when they saw it, they went, my God, this is fast-moving, fast-spreading, totally novel. That's the type that kill large amounts of people. And it's of the same family of flu viruses that did kill 40 million people in 1918 with the Spanish flu that also broke out on a U.S. military base, just like the 1976 last swine flu that broke out on a military base killed one person, so they inoculated tens of millions, killing thousands. That's Encyclopedia Britannica, mainstream history. In fact, pull up the 60 Minutes. I won't play the whole thing, but 60 Minutes on swine flu deaths. You just Google it. I want to play a few minutes of that later. But we're about to go to Bob Chapman with his take on this, because then they had to admit it was basically a hoax. And I said, look, either it's a hoax or they're serious, but you got to take them serious. They're eugenicists. They're planning a world population reduction with airborne Ebola spliced with the flu virus. That's what Eric Pianka and others have talked about. Then it came out 2 weeks ago that the White House science czar openly wrote an 1,100-page textbook called Eco Science with Bush's, one of his top advisors, showing it's bipartisan. Fox News and AP have since picked it up. We scanned the book in, posted it. Others did as well. You've seen it now. Saying world government to carry out forced inoculation, sterilization of the public through the water, through vaccines. I know this sounds crazy. I'm not the one saying it. They're the ones that have been caught doing it. There's the 60 Minutes, swine flu, 1976. There it is. Later we'll play a minute or two, but I want to go to Bob. The issue is we hoped by exposing it, they backed off. But they're planning something. You have less than 20 deaths in the U.S., less than 200 worldwide, and they're saying it's the most deadly. Level 6, forced inoculation. We're going to forcibly inject you. We need volunteers to have it tested so they can say it's safe. We need to get everybody ready for this. Then they admit that the flu vaccine itself could spread it, just like they had to stop the smallpox in 2002 because it was spreading it. Remember that and all the deaths? So that was the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act. They tried to get police and firemen to drill and be trained to forcibly inoculate. They said no. Remember, all this already happened. So the good news is we may be able to discredit it and stop it now. And I'm not saying they're going to have forced inoculations. I'm not saying they're going to get away with it. They're saying they're going to do this. They're thinking they can hype it and scare people to take the vaccine. This is a group of eugenicists that have been caught adding cancer viruses, sterilization compounds all over the world on record in official UN, World Bank, IMF documents, State Department Memorandum 200 and others. Why would you trust them to take anything? And the virus has only killed less than 20 people in the U.S. They say 19.